lost my microphone. All right.
We can hear you just fine, and we are live.
Welcome to the Church of Mabus radio show. It's Friday night. This is Jack Nicholson. And let's see. You're listening to United Public Radio 107.7 FM New Orleans. And it's the apocalypse. But we're going to keep on moshing to the apocalypse. Keep dropping stuff. And everything's a mess.
I think we're going to be okay, actually.
I don't know. But hopefully so. Well, let's not get into Trumpelgooch and Putin right now. I'd rather talk about horror stuff. For sure.
Well, some might say Trump is some horror stuff.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. I'm waiting for the next South Park, and I really think they've weaponized those, and they are a weapon, and he doesn't like them, and I think they're hilarious, but for some reason they're taking longer to put them out because I think every one they're probably like getting in fights with Paramount about putting it out and all this stuff. Like, so far they're insane though. The last one had that lady that shot her dog shooting other dogs all throughout it, and then her face Noam or something. I can't. What's her name? Noem, but her face would fall off and they'd have to Botox her.
Oh yeah, no,
and the face would run off. And then I just had we'll get on to what we're about to get into. Derek Rook is here. It's good to have you here, Derek.
Gore
Shriek Resurrectus. And for some reason you need to take a little break or something, there's a private chat, Derek. I know you said you're having some throat stuff, but if you need to step away, just let us know. It's no big deal. And also basically the South Park episodes, they're weaponized. If you're not watching them, you should, because they're hilarious. And Jesus is like, shh, don't talk about Trump. He'll sue us. Even Jesus is on there saying that.
I can't believe that show's been on the air. That literally was on the air since I was in college.
It's a long time. And but anyway, one thing, my right-wing friend who, and I, at this point, I just think both sides suck. But my right-wing friend said that and I'm not saying I agree with this, but he was for Trump originally. And now he's basically saying that if you're a person now, I'm not saying I agree with this, but these are his words, and maybe he's a little paranoid. But he said if you have a profile or a personality out there and somehow you're talking against both sides, he's basically said we're all about to get rounded up into camps. And I was like, by Trump? And he's like, yeah. It's like, okay, I'm not saying I agree with that, but things.
I doubt that's going to happen. If he's going to come after me and Joe and everyone that's on the show after this, and
he probably like to, but he's not going to come after you. You voted for him, so
it's funny because if you Escape from New York is my favorite movie of all time.
Love it.
Cool.
And it's funny how John Carpenter with Escape from New York predicted the Trump presidency the first time. And Escape from LA is now predicting it the second time. Yeah,
I need to watch it again. What happens in it exactly? What that he predicts? Like I've seen it, I don't remember. But
it's the world building in both of those movies. You know, we have a president that lives in a totalitarian society that he built. There's a giant wall that's around New York City. Yeah. You know. And then you've got Escape from LA, where you've got a president who predicts the future and as a result never leaves office and starts a new totalitarian America where, you know, only people that they deem worthy get to live there. Everyone else gets deported to an island. You know, it really is. You could go on forever, but it is very, very interesting.
Prophetic. I love John Carpenter's. A publisher recently sent me those Halloween tales that he did with Storm King Publishing, and it's signed by him. And I don't really collect signatures or anything, but that was still cool. I'll definitely treasure his signature.
An amazing feather in the cap.
Yeah, definitely. But there's some kind. I haven't read them yet, but they're like Halloween stories, like I guess like Tales from the Crypt or something. But that's Storm King Publishing. But great to have you here. I came across Gore Shriek by accident somehow, like the old ones. And I saw something about Greg Capello, or one of the dudes that does like Spawn and Batman, a real known artist, kind of started there. That was interesting. And I love stuff that's like Tales from the Crypt, EC Comics, Creep Show, and those anthologies, Tales from the Dark Side. I love it. and I'm always looking for that kind of stuff. So then I came across Gore Shriek Resurrectus, and then I was like, damn, I got to get these.
And Resurrectus is the celebration of everything you just said, basically. Are we on in rock and roll?
Yeah.
So it was definitely something that we all grew up with. Gore Shriek was part of that amazing mid 1980s black and white comic book movement that you were discussing, where all these indie comic books were having their day, all thanks to Eastman and Laird's Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles really shooting that comic book black and white aesthetic through the roof. A lot of horror comics were coming up at that time. Gore Shriek was just one of those. But yeah, no, it was when you're young and you're starting to, at the time of Gore Shriek, I was just about becoming a teenager, and it was just like bread and butter. Like you want to, at that age, you want to collect things that you're not allowed to, that your parents are telling you not to. So that's just a great time to be going into a comic book store, looking behind the counter, seeing comic books like Gore Shriek and everything by Last Gasp and like Deviant Slice and all those socio-political sort of horror comics that were back there and everything else, and taking them home. And yeah, it was the start of a lot of careers. Greg Capullo is probably the most famous out of that lineup, but Bruce Spalding Fuller was the original artist for a bunch of issues. He ended up in Hollywood and working as a special effects creature designer. He's an amazing mask maker as well. And then Steve Bissette already had a career at that time, but he certainly was a flagship artist that was known for that book. Same thing with the Gurch, same thing with Chaz Ballin, the great late Chaz Ballin. All of it was just a very much an independent comic book experience. And it was just amazing to collect. And it's really great that my comic book company, Rough House Publishing, gets a chance to celebrate and kind of push that legacy forward, which is what Resurrectus is all about.
And what was that? Last Gasp and Deviant Spice? Did I say that right?
Deviant Slice was one of the many different comic books that came out of the comic book company Last Gasp. So they had comic books like Slow Death, Deviant Slice. They had Skull Comics was another one. And all of them kind of had thematically some different stuff going on there. Deviant Slice was very socio-political. Skull Comics were just nasty little horror anthology comics. Slow Death was all about like what was happening in the ecosystem and how all these different things that were killing us, down from STDs down to, nuclear fallout, down to, what we were doing at the time out in the North Pole when we were, people were killing seals for the hides and everything. So like everything you could think of, that comic book was kind of shining a light on, which you don't see a lot of anymore. Like you said, a lot of people are afraid now to upset the apple cart, so to speak,
Yeah. It's always interesting. I keep thinking of Creepshow, and usually in a lot of those, like there's always the parent that's like an asshole and hates comics, and then of course that's the one that gets whacked at the end. Like, the creature gets them. Yeah, the creature always gets them. But yeah, I wrote some of those down. It's interesting, some of those things, and I'm going to take some notes because I'm sure you know some titles and things that I've never heard of.
Oh, I've got a stack directly in front of me right now that I just so happen to have. But like Skull Comics here, that's one of the Last Gasp books that came out in the 70s with artwork by Greg Iron, who passed away at a very, very young age. Another great black and white title. It's funny, I just so happen, I swear to God, I didn't bring these for show and tell. It just so happens they're in front of the computer right now. But Gore Shriek, Dead World was another one that I grew up with, which was my generation's Walking Dead. and I love this book to death. With art by Vincent Locke, who went on to do History of Violence. He did all the album covers for Cannibal Corpse. So really, really great stuff there. And I don't know if I have anything else. Oh, here's a Slow Death issue right here. That's what that looked like. And
Cool.
really, really great stuff.
Do those go for a ton? What do they normally?
Not as much as you would think. Largely because a lot of these comics have been forgotten. A lot of the Dead World stuff is extremely cheap as far as old 80s comic books are concerned. You could get probably most of them, and they came with like gory covers and tame covers. You obviously saw the gory cover.
Yeah.
But yeah, it would be, you could probably get most of the collection for about $5 a book or less.
Cool.
Some of those Last Gasp books were up to like maybe $20, but still nothing outrageous.
I'm familiar with Dead World. It's very. I love like weird zombie stuff. There's another one I came across, Fubar, which recently it was like I think Peter Samedi, who does Alterna Comics and he does King Cryptid, was involved. There's a bunch of different artists, but if you look it up, it's just FUBAR. And I guess it was on Kickstarter first, but at some point it hit mass paperback, and you can find them. But it's like weird zombie crazy stuff and war stories.
Oh, you have me a weird zombie crazy stuff. I'm good. I'll try to go keep that out. That sounds amazing.
That reminds me of the good war zombie section of the animated. Oh God, and it just lost Heavy Metal, the first one. Yes. The guys in the B-50, the bomber. They go zombie on the one who survives the crash.
They just re-released Heavy Metal. Did you see that Kickstarter campaign that was out just a few months ago?
No, I did not.
Yeah, I saw it. Yeah, it was pretty cool.
They made a big deal out of it. I don't know how it ended up going. I imagine very well. But
I've seen
Heavy Metal was another great example of a book that you probably weren't supposed to have, quote unquote, at such a young age, but was an amazing spark for a lot of creative young minds.
And do you know much about Metal Hurlant? That's one I came across. That's kind of like, I guess, inspired heavy metal in some way. Metal Hurlant. It was like in Britain, and somehow I think it was like maybe the inspiration. There's a story behind it. I don't know it, and I shouldn't tell it because I don't know it completely. But there's some kind of connection with a comic. It's like they're like a Mobius and stuff like that. The artist Mobius, and it's called Metal Hurlant, Hurlant, and they just had a Kickstarter for the relaunch of that, but apparently it was in like a United Kingdom and stuff first, like Britain and stuff. And I guess heavy metal, there's a connection. You can look it up, you'll find it, but I don't know exactly the details of it, but I know there is. But so what got you with your publishing company? What was the catalyst of starting that? It's a lot of work, isn't it?
It's a lot of work for sure, but it's something that I love dearly, and I've been doing. I've been on and off with publishing for about 20 years now, which blows my mind to say that. I'm, born and bred as a comic book artist, essentially, an illustrator for several magazines and books and things. I started off just wanting to break into the comic book world as an artist, not as a publisher. This would be probably like late 90s. And, at the time, the comic book market was like in this weird downturn. Like this was the time that Marvel Comics was in decline. They were actually in bankruptcy. The quality of their books had gone down severely in a lot of different ways. The artists, the writing, the presentation. We got through the Image Comics boom of the early 90s. And then the floor just dropped out of everything. And of course, that's when I'm trying to break into comics, right? Trying to make a splash at a time where everybody thought that basically comics were going to go away.
So you came in around the same time as the Amalgam Comics. Do you remember that when DC and Marvel merged?
I do. Yes, I do. For a while, there was talks about things like Spider-Man being bought by Image Comics, and it was just a weird time. Like you heard all
people were scared about it. I don't know if I don't remember if I was collecting comics at that point actively, but I certainly have bought them here and there. In that bubble wrap there on the wall that the kitty cat is sleeping on is one of the posters of all the characters from all 12 books that they did for the amalgam for like a whole year. They did I think they did like 12 different books with like 4 to each title, and some had 0 titles to them. Anyway, it's got all the characters in every book, like in a poster, like coming at you. It's badass. I'd rip it out and do it right now, but I just came off of work, so I'm done lifting stuff for a while.
Well, we can't upset the sleeping kitty, so
yeah, and the kitty's hanging out there too. So
yeah. But no, it was a crazy, amazing time, but it was also a time of deep decline. I remember the word on the street was there was a possibility that the medium might go away altogether. And it's been print media in general, I think, has been dying a much slower death over a period of a much longer time. And I think that, jumping around a little bit, but I think that we'll get there because there's some interesting stuff going on now in the wake of Diamond comic book distributors going under, and there was a bidding war. So there's a lot of interesting words on the street as to where the future of comics is going to go. But let's put a pin in that. We'll save that for a little bit later on.
Yeah.
But I did break into comics in 1997 was my first opportunity. And I just met a small little tiny comic book publisher. And the deal was, we have no money, but if you have something, we'll publish it. So, it didn't feel like I was being taken advantage of or not being paid or whatever. It just felt like two creative guys that were doing this out of their living room and bedroom, literally. We're just trying to make some books. And
what did you do? What did you do for them? What was some of the titles you did at first? You worked on?
So the company was called American Mule Entertainment, and the owner of that company, his name was Adam Molenta, and he's still around to this day. Now he's a husband and a father of, I hope I'm not speaking out of turn. I think he has 2 boys, young boys, and he has a new comic book series that he wrote with his sons called Punk Taco, and it's an all ages Punk Taco. Yeah, it's an all ages comic book, and it's something that he gets to do with his kids, which I think is amazing.
That's pretty cool.
Adam has always been a creative, why not kind of guy, he was never in those days, and I haven't talked to him in a lot of years, but in those days he wasn't partial to any different kind of genre or whatever. He loved all sorts of different kinds of artwork. He was an artist and a writer and a publisher himself, and this is back when publishing your own books were much, much more difficult than today. A lot of times you had to publish overseas. You had to print overseas. You had to have a minimum of like 2,000 or 3,000 copies done. There was only a net 30 to pay for all of those, and you never knew if you were going to be sitting on a giant pile of comics. So,
even in the heyday when I was like really young, and we had like classic titles, Spider-Man and whatnot. The problem with the 2 different big companies, DC and Marvel always had the great stories.
Yes.
And their artwork was okay, but their ink work was terrible. I remember tons of like Spider-Man comic where the lines for Spider-Man are here, but the colors for his costume were off here. So it's like just offset a little bit. It's like, damn it. DC was just the opposite. They had really shitty stories and kind of goofy characters, but they had really excellent artwork. And, the color stayed within the lines. Didn't look like a 3-year-old printed it.
It's funny you mentioned that. I was just going to say the one thing that I remember taking away from my DC titles, which were very, very small. I think some Batman and a lot of Swamp Thing, but the coloring was always a lot better. You know, you never hear about the colorists often, but yeah, it seemed like it wasn't so much of a rush job, so to speak.
Yeah, or you know, misalignment at the printers where you know they had all the things with you know the master has everything in the lines, but the master goes and it just misses the page. It's just horrible. Even as a kid, I know this sounds like terrible, but we spent 25 cents on a comic, 15 cents on a comic, 10 cents on a comic. But you get it home and you read it, and then Spider-Man's like, you know, half out of the lines. It's like,
yeah, there was definitely
there's a frustration factor.
A distinct difference. And you're right, the artists for DC, there was some amazing and incredibly.
Yeah, the unfortunate thing is that they had some pretty goofy material that they were forced to work with, some of these guys. You know, the classic goofy characters. I mean, Penguin, Joker. You know, they were a Gator Man to you know match up with you know Spider-Man's Lizard Man. It's just they terrible, horrible stories to begin with. The stories that gotten a lot better, particularly after Amalgam. I was actively collecting a lot of Marvel books and a few, mostly Batman books in the 90s. I can't say exactly which years, but it was the years leading up to Amalgam. And I got all the Amalgam books. I think I lost them in a move or two, but I used to have one big comic book box, the entire run of the Amalgam comic titles, which is DC and Marvel's writers, artists, colorists, inkers, and whatnotters, everybody making, I mean, mishmash their characters. It was one of the coolest comics I had ever seen on the planet. And they got better since then. And then that's when it like really, I mean, branched out. It was after Amalgam. That's when you, like Dark Horse and McFarlane and all those guys started coming around at that point and just branching off of those dudes.
Oh yeah, I remember when Dark Horse was still a little black and white comic book company too. They made their bread and butter with their licensed products. They got some amazing licenses early.
Yeah, they
on.
Licensed off of DC, didn't they? For the most part.
Well, I'm not sure. You probably know more about
that
than I do. I know that they had the Aliens license forever. They got the Terminator license, Predator. I mean, these are all giant IPs that weren't even as giant back then as they are today.
Right.
And they just took them and ran with them, and they gave themselves quite a launching off point for sure. And people forget about the original stuff that Dark Horse used to do. But no, they were a great example of a small, tiny, little comic book company that did amazing.
That's how the Turtle started. Is it just you know a personally published comic, I guess, if you want to call it that, and then Marvel picked it up, and then I think it went from there.
Yeah, everybody picked it up. Nickelodeon picked it up. Well, they
Nickelodeon,
sold
Hasbro. Everybody got a piece of that license. It was amazing how that one just went and exploded.
Oh yeah,
it's a cool concept to begin with, but and a lot of people think that they're turtles. And actually, in the original comic, the black and white comic, they're alien creatures that happen to get mutated by you know American nuclear waste and look like turtles.
You gotta love American nuclear waste. It's
cool concept. Yeah, I know. I mean, Godzilla is the first American nuclear, byproduct. Period.
That's true. Very true.
Dark Horse is, I think, was one I keep up with. Not everything, but they have some pretty unique stuff still. That's really different. I know that Minor Threats with Patton Oswalt, the comedian and actor. That's pretty interesting. It's called Minor Threats. It's like a superhero situation that's really weird and different. There's a bunch of different ones. The Hellboy thing, I can't even keep up with that. That's my biggest problem with a lot of comic books nowadays. If you want to get into something like Spider-Man or something, there's so many. You're just like, screw it. I give up.
Spider-Man is ridiculous. I don't know how. When I was collecting in the 90s, there were at least, I want to say 6 or 7 books, and then there was at least 3 or 4, semi-annuals, and then of course every year an annual. It was a lot of shit. Pardon my French. Superman, same way. I mean, there were 7 or 8 books for Superman, and especially when he died, it was like 9 or 10. Because then there's Man of Steel. several, byproduct Superman heroes came out. It was just amazing how many books came out. I don't remember if I was collecting Superman at that point or not in the 90s, but I might have been. Certainly was, watching the market, and it got to the point where I'm like, I'm out. There's just too much to buy. I don't have enough space in my house.
Well, plus two, that was a marketing strategy on their part, because part of what Marvel and DC can do and command and buy that independent publishers have never been able to do, especially the smaller that you get, is buy shelf space. If you've got 4 X-Men titles and 5 Spider-Man titles and 2 Superman titles and, so forth and so on, there's only so much space on the new release rack for all those books. And that was in part a strategy to push some of these smaller publishers that when I was younger, I would see on that new release rack that just eventually went away altogether.
Yeah, well, I mean, I definitely understand how that would make for better, the active collector. You don't have to buy as much going to the smaller publishers. But in recent times, even it's gotten, I think, even far worse. I mean, it's not only titles of Spider-Man books back in I'm talking 93, 94, 5, 6. I mean, I collected for several years. Today they have Spider-Man, Spider-Gwen. They have in the comics that came out. The first one was the clone. I forget his name, but it was Ben Parker, the Scarlet Spider. There's Spider-Gwen, Spider-Stacy, Spider-MJ. There's Miles Morales is Spider Hispanico, whatever and then there's Spider-Ham. There's a pig that's Spider-Man powered. It has gone to the point where it's like he was my first and favorite superhero. I'm gonna have to find someone new. I mean, it's become ridiculous. Spider-Man, in my opinion, is ridiculous.
Yeah, the underground market now, and again, we'll get there in a little bit, but the underground market now, I think, is where the future of comics is going to go for a lot of people. It'll never be the big two. They'll never suffer from having to go through like a Kickstarter campaign or whatever. But for the rest of us, I don't think that not only is it going to happen, but I don't think it's going to be a death sentence. I honestly think that it's going to be the next way of publishing your book, period. And it's not the worst thing in the world, but again, I have a tendency always to jump around 3 decades, so I'm going to try to keep it as linear as I possibly can. So we'll get there.
And and I've even found myself getting fatigued with Spawn now. It's like there's just too much. It's Spawn. That, and I love Spawn, but I like some of the weirder stuff. Like I know they've re-released EC Comics, and there's some new titles of that. There's a new one, IDW Dark, where they're doing like Sleepy Hollow and Event Horizon prequel of that movie Event Horizon.
Yes.
There's another one called, I always mess up the name, about the trees, about animal serial killers. Like there's a teddy bear lady that's a serial killer. That was pretty nuts. But the EC comic stuff's good. But one that's coming out that I've been keeping an eye out is High Strangeness. And apparently it's Ani Press and a company called Spectre Vision, but somehow Elijah Wood's caught up in it. And that title is like alien kind of stuff. And then, of course, there's the James Tynion Project Blue Book, which is like real alien cases and UFO stuff. And he's about to release a Project Red Book, which is real, like supposedly real historical accounts of UFO encounters with the Chinese and Russia put into a comic book. So that's pretty crazy.
Yeah, I mean, my dog is barking downstairs, which he never does. So I'm going to go downstairs and check and see what he's barking at.
Sure,
I'll be back in a minute.
Anything weird. But tell us more, Derek, about Rough House Publishing. Tell us some more about the titles. And I've noticed, and I got Resurrectus, and I was at that point, I couldn't find the cover A's. Like I think I found one cover A at Amazon of it or something, or maybe it was one before. I think it was one of the earlier issues I found. It was the only one there. Man, those sold out and went underground for sure, didn't they? I got a cover of each, so I'm happy as long as I can read it. That's the point I'm at now with a lot of this stuff.
Depending on what you're looking for to plug in those holes in your collection, I might be able to help you out. So, offline we'll talk a little bit. But to answer your question, and using that as an opportunity to kind of go back in time a little bit. Soon after working with American Mule Entertainment, I met a gentleman by the name of Stephen Romano, and he was doing adaptions of Italian horror movie as comic books and graphic novels. At the time, their company was working on Lucio Fulci's Zombie. They had a Gates of Hell in the works. They did The Beyond. They did a lot of these horror titles that, to be quite honest with you, I didn't even see half of these movies because there was no distribution for these in America back then. With the exception of Zombie and a little bit of Gates of Hell, most of these movies you had to buy in the underground market. So right off the bat, my thought process was, who's going to buy this stuff? Nobody even knows that these movies exist. But again, I was given these amazing opportunities. Zombie is one of my favorite horror movies ever, if you've ever seen it. Lucio Fulci, Zombie, 1979. And they offered me to draw The Gates of Hell, which was my first really, really, really big book.
Awesome.
And the contingency, if you will, was that I get to work on my favorite zombie movie comic, which was Zombie. So they brought me on as inker for that, with contingency that I could draw the entirety of The Gates of Hell, which is what came next. But again, you know, it's funny to look back in time and have time dictate what has become popular later on in the industry. But we were definitely these young independent pioneers that were out there doing a lot of stuff that nobody else was either thinking of or even interested in, for that matter. And we were doing these completely independent of any kind of major publisher system. We were publishing these all by ourselves. This was in the age of Chaz Ballin and Deep Red and Fantico Enterprises, who did Gore Shriek originally and still owns Gore Shriek to this day. But you know, it was cool to be part of that movement at the time, and it really gave me an opportunity to do something really, really special early in my career. But I took a bunch of years off. I won't even talk about that period, but I went on hiatus for about 8 years where I wasn't doing any of this. And around 2010, I started doing conventions again and selling my old catalog. And then things just started to happen. I had some creator-owned titles that were horrific in nature that I wanted to put out on my own. So I started Rough House Publishing as basically just as a small little tiny shelter that I could publish my own stuff under as a self-publisher, and just have a little bit of fun. I wasn't really looking to have things get as big as they turned out to be. But then as time had gone on and I started getting my legs again and pushing that product and that brand, we started getting opportunities. I got this amazing opportunity to work with Gary Reed, who owned Dead World. And he was doing a Dead World book. And I was beside myself. I grew up with Dead World. I wanted so badly to be part of that, and to have an opportunity to work on that book, which was called Voices of the Dead World, was just great. And then through him and that whole process, I was able to meet the owners of Dead World, or the creators of Dead World, which was Ralph Griffith and Stuart Kerr, who, again, you know, they were the ones that originally published Dead World, and then Calidor Comics took it over after, I think, issue 10. And they did a bunch of awesome independent comics like Dark Oz and Night Streets. And I remember going out to, Gary invited me out to a comic book convention that he had hosted. And I got to meet all of these guys in one fell swoop. I got to meet Ralph Griffith, Stuart Kerr, Vince Locke, Mark Bloodworth, of course, Gary Reed, all in one sitting, and it was like my whole childhood was like sitting right across from me at the same table. So of course, me being me, I started, you know, throwing ideas out about things that we could all do together to kind of get the band, quote unquote, back together. And we did this very nasty, nasty, nasty book called The Dead. And The Dead was the follow up to Dead World. When Ralph and Stu sold Dead World, they wanted to do a zombie book after that, so they made one called The Dead, which was messy, nasty. I mean, it was just.
I see that, and I've been keeping an eye on. Did that get reissued already, and I missed it, or is it going to be reissued?
So glad you asked. So The Dead was the first graphic novel, the first book that Rough House Publishing published back in 2015. And we did it again through like Kickstarter. I think we used GoFundMe at the time, which is funny to think of now. But we made enough money to go print the book, and we collected all of the issues of The Dead that ever existed, and we put them together in one giant graphic novel. And we did like a very low print run. I think it was about 200 copies, and they were just gone. It was amazing how fast they moved. So to answer that question, we just got the licensing back to do another The Dead graphic novel. So that is actually coming out from Rough House next year. That's going to be our. You're actually hearing it here first. I haven't made that announcement at all yet, because again, with a 200 book print run, a lot of people didn't get a chance to see it. So we're really excited that we're going to be able to do something and show people just how nasty Rough House can get, and it's gonna be pretty wild. So we're planning on being banned universally starting next year, which is great.
I love weird zombie stuff.
That's a great tagline.
Yeah, well, that's what we used the first time around. It wasn't a release date. It was just, banned globally in September of 2015.
I'm going to keep checking in about you, because I know when it pops up on your site, they can go quick. So I'm slow. So I need to pay attention.
To be banned in a comic store near you.
I want it though.
Well, what we like to do, I think what might set us apart a little bit from other small independent companies is we sell everything like it's a collectible, no matter what it is. We've dabbled into some newer stuff that I'll get into in a little bit, but the concept is always the same, is like try to create something, an amazing analog product that people get excited about ordering, receiving, and then they want to keep it. You mentioned that you had a hard time finding Rough House books on eBay, and I remember there's a few on there now because I check often, but for a very long time, all of our books were not being resold. And I think that was the favorite part of it for me at that time, because that meant that the people that were buying our stuff were keeping our stuff. They really enjoyed it for what it was, because it's never just the comic book. If you look on our website, there's all sorts of different tiers, and we sell things with it, like color posters, that are in the centerfold. We do stickers, barf bags we've done in the past. We're doing them again. Tabloid newspapers. We try to get, with every product, we try to get very creative with all of the things that you get with the product. With The Dead, it was the same thing. We had, we made a soundtrack for it. As a matter of fact, again, Inside Baseball, first time listeners get to hear this, but when we reissued The Dead, we want to issue that soundtrack as a record. And
records are making a comeback.
Was coming back. It was coming back up 10 years ago, but it's everywhere now. And so the tagline to our company is the home of the not so funny book, music, and pulp media. So we always want to keep the pulp media part of it alive, and the music part of it alive.
So are you actually making vinyl, or did you just have it as an idea?
Well, when we did The Dead the first time, we included it as a CD, so it was in the back of the book.
Okay.
And you could take the CD and you could listen to the entirety of the soundtrack. We did like a 13-song soundtrack to go with it. And it was like having a musical score to a movie. It was just amazingly done by a guy called Surgery Head. He likes to go by Surgery Head, and an amazing synth composer. And he did a soundtrack for our zombie book as well that to this day has gone unreleased. And it is absolutely amazing. I'm one of those people that doesn't like to leave anything on the cutting room floor. So that the fact that we have an entire soundtrack, 11, 12, 13 songs that a lot of people have never heard, drives me bonkers. So, don't be surprised if you see some vinyl on our table starting next year.
You should do it because vinyl is actually making a comeback. Walmart now sells vinyl, and they sell like I don't remember the brand name. I bought one. It's like a suitcase, and you set it down, and you open it up, and there's a needle and the turntable and all that, and it's got a couple speakers. But you can also plug in like external speakers and whatnot. But it's a portable vinyl player, and I have I don't have a lot, but I have some of my favorite vinyl I haven't heard in like 30 or 40 years.
Isn't it great?
So yeah, it's awesome. So you should do it. I mean, because I literally stopped in my tracks. I didn't know that the trend was coming back so quickly. I mean, it was like one day it wasn't there, the next day it was on the shelf.
Yes.
And I happened to walk by and I saw Michael Jackson, like the way he was sitting in the front of his Thriller album, and I walked right past it and it like registered in the corner of my eye, and I was like, and then I backed up my shopping cart and I went, "That's a goddamn record." Not a CD. It's not a video disc. It's a goddamn vinyl record. And then I look below it, and there's like 4 different models of suitcase record players. So they're making a comeback. You should do the idea. Get that music out there.
I think a lot of us we nostalgize for the past a lot. In general, as a society, once we get to be in our 40s and 50s and so on, we really nostalgize for the type
I'm going to be 60 next year.
Yeah, you look great, man.
Thank you.
Ready for another 50 years of this? Because
at least another 60. I mean, the Bible says 120. I want 120. I want my 120.
You Wheaties.
It also promises immortality too. So
there you have it. But yeah, we nostalgize for the past, but sometimes
turn that on.
We fail to look and see what's right before our very eyes. We're living in this amazing time where John Carpenter does tours as a musician, and he plays his soundtrack music to a live audience with his movies and playing in the background. The same thing with Fabio Frizzi, the same thing with Goblin. And then on the toy market side of it, we have like 9 Jasons and 10 Michael Myers to choose from, and all the different masks that are available now of high quality that weren't available before. And how these are all bleeding into all different types of pop culture. This and then of course, Jay, we're talking about the vinyl aspect of it, like companies like Mondo and Waxwork. I don't want to leave the podcast and go get it, but
there's one in England that's doing some old retro stuff, 16 something or other. What they're doing mostly like the Space 1999 TV series, action figures, props, costuming.
You speak in my language. You speak
that kind of stuff. Yeah, you can get the comm that looks kind of, it's a stupid thing. It's like a box with a stick hanging out, like a morphed out microphone, but it's Bluetooth, and you can use it to activate Bluetooth devices in your house. And they have the stun gun, and I don't think it just does light and sound, but it might, turn the TV volume up and down. It might do something like that too. I'm not sure, but they're life size 1:1 props.
Oh yeah,
very cool stuff. Retro is making a huge comeback. I mean, if you look at there's a let me get one. This is not a Funko Pop, but Funko Pop makes little awesome dudes like this. This is Anakin Skywalker, and it's a Disney Dorable. Same idea as the Funko Pops, but little morphed out, weird looking characters, and they do a lot of retro stuff. And it's all over the place. You can't get away from it.
No, you can't get away from it. We're surrounded right now. We have this amazing time where we're in the middle of an embarrassment of riches. So I hope that all the people that enjoy pop culture are really, coming up and embracing all of this and picking up some of their favorite stuff. I was mentioning vinyl in the other room. I have an Orca vinyl. Ennio Morricone's score for that movie is incredible. I love that score to death. And then one of my favorite zombie movies just happens to be one of the worst movies, let alone zombie movies, that was ever made. It was called, in America, they called it Night of the Zombies. And in Italy, they called it Hell of the Living Dead. If you guys haven't seen it, it's
I probably have.
It's an absolute hoot of a zombie movie. But the movie is famously known for ripping off other movies and other soundtracks. So literally the soundtrack to that movie is a ripoff of about 5 different films. And again, we live in a time where I can go in the next room and I can pick up that soundtrack on vinyl and show it to you guys. It's unheard of. There's no stone unturned right now. And I'm just loving it.
That movie?
Bask in the moment of it all.
How long is that movie? Because I found it on YouTube. It's like 2 hours and 44 minutes. Is it really that long?
No. I think you're probably looking at the extras for the because they just came out with a 4K in America. Severin Films put out Hell of the Living Dead 4K, and it's a 3-disc set. One of the discs is the soundtrack. The other disc is 2 or 3 hours worth of special features. And of course, a 4K of the most notoriously bad horror movie in the world for your enjoyment, which is just great.
I'm going to have to watch it. I'm trying to locate it, write it down and stuff, or I'll forget it. But
Hell of the Living Dead is on Tubi right now for free if you want to see it.
Cool.
Yeah.
So what happened to make you such a sicko?
What happened to make me such a sicko?
Yeah.
You
like the gore? I like it too. I mean, I definitely it's what I prefer 9 times out of 10. But what was the catalyst?
I enjoyed. I've been asked this quite a few times, so you have that stock answer. But as of recent times, I was digging in a little bit and trying to think of why myself that might be. When I was younger, when I was very young, I was a poor person. My mother and I were poor people living in a very rich town. When I was going to school, in grade school, junior high school, I wasn't aware of things like classism and things like that. You're just a kid. You want to play with other kids. And sometimes you don't realize that that plays a factor. You don't realize that, other kids don't want to hang out with you because of a social status or because they saw your house or your lack of things or lack of, lofty things that they have on their own. That sometimes you could be on your own. But the one thing I always had was my artwork. And that was always a bridge between myself and other kids. If nobody wanted to talk to me or if nobody wanted to hang out with me, but I sat in a corner and I could draw, which I could draw pretty much naturally. I did take formal training to kind of hone that craft a little bit, but it was pretty much a natural ability. I had an artist in the family who I learned about posthumously and was kind of like the start of that artistic journey. But being in a corner and recess and just drawing in a notebook or whatever would always gather a bunch of other kids over, and then they would say, hey, could you draw me this? Or could you draw me that? And hey, you're not so bad after all, and maybe we can be friends. So I used that in my early ages as a way to kind of make friends and let people know that maybe I don't have the biggest TV in town, or maybe my mother doesn't drive the nicest car, but we're all kind of in this together. And then from there, I've always had just a fascination with creatures, monsters, aliens, everything that was just unreal and just odd and peculiar. And the fact that I could draw those things and create those things was just a lot of fun for me to do on a surface level. But originally I wanted to be a special effects designer, and for many, many years, that was what the trajectory was probably going to be. So everything was in service to that. The creature designs that I would make, I would experiment with like liquid latex and all sorts of different things to make props and to make little goofy gags just to stand out in the crowd, so to speak.
I got something that you'll enjoy, Derek. So I have a degree in video production. The degree is over there.
Excellent.
My senior project, it fell apart on like the first day of filming. My lead actor quit on me the day we were. I mean, I'm in the field waiting for him. I'm like, where are you? And he finally calls, and I'm not coming. Anyway, the story is kind of like a comic book guy, but at the end, the bad guy gets his head crushed in, because I kind of wanted to try to honor and emulate the first Toxic Avenger when the Chimera runs over the kid's head. This is I don't know how they do it still to this day. It's one of the coolest, very graphic, nasty special effects. But I wanted to have something similar. So the superhero in my final video is called the Cudgelist, and he's healed by aliens and given superpowers. He's a martial arts teacher, and he has like different types of wooden weapons on his shirt when he's killed. And when they bring him back to life, those icons turn white. And then from that point on, anytime he bleeds, his shirt sucks the blood up and the icons turn red. He can pull them off. They become real weapons. One of them is a warhammer. So he pulls it off and he smashes the bad guy's head open with it. So, in order to do the test, I just went with natural products. Fruit. Not apples are too small, not oranges are too small. So I was like going for like melons, the green melon, the cantaloupe, the thumper melons, small watermelons. They were too squishy. Coconuts were a little too small, but they were perfect for the sound. So I had to get those. But we finally went with the cantaloupe, which is the orange meat inside.
Yep.
No, not it's not that one. It's the green one. That's what it is. It was the green one, not the cantaloupe. The green one was the better. The cantaloupe was actually a little bit harder to break, but not quite as big as the green one. The green one, we gutted it like a pumpkin. We just sliced the top off, took the seeds out, and I put a huge piece of white cauliflower, right in the middle. And then we mixed up our own Caro blood. We had a special formula. It was so much drops of yellow. I think it was like a whole bottle of blue, 2 bottles of red, and like 3 drops of yellow and a drop of green. And then we shook it up and poured it in there and nailed it shut, put a wig on it. And we had a dummy body behind it. So it looked like an unconscious dude on the ground with his head and his hair all just. And my roommate at the time was 6'2", 6'3", 280. I mean, a big dude, right? I had this warhammer. It's a 2 foot long, 3 foot long, really nicely made museum replica's warhammer. And it took him three solid hits. Bam, bam. And we're filming this too, by the way. This is just a video test for the special effects to even see if it'll work on video. And third hit, and the thing cracks open. The wig splits open just a little bit. You don't really see what's underneath of it, but this piece of cauliflower kind of flops out, and then all the blood comes behind it. And it looks like the brain just fell out of this dude's head.
That's amazing.
I played it for the class, and automatically all the girls, as soon as they saw it, they're like, "Ew!" They screamed, and I sat down. And I was like, "Thank you. That's all the review I need."
The desired effect. If you're going to go through all that trouble, you need to have people leave the room.
Every girl went, "Ew!" immediately, and I went, "I'm done." I sat down. My teacher was like, "No, you come back here. We're going to rip this one apart." I'm like, "No, you're not." I got my reaction. I don't need anything. You don't have to tell me a damn thing. It worked. I just need to do it with 1 hit, not 3, and a little bit better special sound effects.
That's go ahead.
No, I was just gonna comment on what Jay was saying in regards to that. It just it's to note that, like, I remember when I was younger, it almost seemed like horror movies and gore movies, it was almost like a step above porn. So if you were a 14-year-old and talking to a mixed group of kids about what you watched that weekend, whether it be extra or something else,
Yeah, those are.
it was literally the equivalent to like talking about porn movies and stuff like that. So you'd always get this ick factor from the ladies. But it's amazing now looking back 2025. I've done conventions for years, and the quotient of ladies that are into horror is just amazing now. You know, geek culture is a thing. I remember it was, when you were 14 years old, the first thing you wanted to do is get rid of your Voltrons as fast as you can, get rid of your GI Joes, your Transformers, all that stuff, because you wanted to get laid. Let's face it. And you wanted to date women, and you wanted to enjoy yourself, and being a kid that was at home playing with your toys was kryptonite. That was not going to happen. So to be in a world now where like everybody is just embracing all of these things together, doesn't matter who you are. It's cool. It's a giant community, and when we do these conventions, we get to meet all sorts of different types of people.
Truth be told, I have quite a few new collectible thingies, and I have quite a few of my old toys still from. I mean, I have toys that are probably older than you.
Probably.
I collect weird Vlad the Impaler figures. Like there's some sideshow press and stuff like that. Like they're crazy. Some of them are expensive, but the real expensive ones I couldn't afford. There was one like $1,000. Like no, forget that one. But have a lot of Nosferatus I collect. Like a whole bunch of different Nosferatus, like from all over. Bigfoots,
Awesome.
Bigfoots and aliens. I have a lot of Bigfoots and aliens.
You got some cryptids going on.
Yeah, I got the cryptids going on. And Toxic Avenger was one of the movies that traumatized me as a kid for some reason, seeing that scene where they run over the heads, and it affected me. And now I've seen it again recently, and it wasn't that big of a deal, but it was still like a little creepiness, like when you remember seeing it.
Well, it depends on the age, too. I mean, I saw that when I was probably in my 20s, I think.
I was 10 or 8 or something.
Yeah, at the same point, that the gore and graphics in the Reanimator movie, same thing. I mean, it was so funny. I was laughing. Me and my friend went there. We were getting drunk in the theater. I snuck in a 6-pack. He snuck in a 2-liter bottle of California Cooler. Just tells you how. It was just 30 years ago, so mind you. And so these two girls, pretty girls, were in front of us, and every time the bad stuff happened, they're like, ew, 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 and they're screaming and losing it. And finally, like halfway through the movie, this one gorgeous Chinese lady turned around. I mean, they were about our age. Turns around and looks at us and goes, "How can you laugh at this?" And at the time, I was giggling my ass off at what we had just seen. And I looked up and I was like, "Because it's funny." And then I went right back to cracking up.
That was the point. It was shocking and funny.
Well, laughter is always that release in horror movies, right? It's almost like being on a roller coaster and surviving the first hill. You're going to be okay. But,
Right.
Talking about the original Toxic Avenger, I remember when I rented that from the video store for the first time with me and my friends, the Tagliaferro brothers, who were a little bit younger than I was. And all together, we were all young. I was the oldest, I think, at maybe like 13 years old at the time. And the movie was sold as kind of like a comedy. So when we were sitting down watching it, I mean, we were holding each other. We were laughing so hard. And then you'd get to a scene like the kid who got hit by the car and then get his head run over. And it was so damn cruel and dark. And then they were coming out and taking pictures of his body and everything else. It was almost like we got duped. It's like, oh, I thought this was a comedy. And all of a sudden it got really real.
Yeah.
And we weren't laughing for a couple seconds. And then the movie let us know that it was okay, that this was all just a joke, right? And there were so many set pieces in that movie that I remember that really gave us pause, like that drug dealer that was in the gym, and he was using the elliptical machine, or not the elliptical, but the press, and Toxic Avenger comes over and smashes the weight onto his face.
Yeah.
That one to me, that was probably the goriest one. Like, and then you saw his mouth kind of still moving afterwards and whatever.
It
I
was
really,
pretty graphic depiction, and the problem with the movie was that at the time, you probably guys may not remember, but it was getting an X rating. They were giving it a triple X rating because of the graphics in it, and so they had to. I'm sure they had to cut it down to some. And I don't remember what the final rating was either, whether it was NC-17 or R. But in my opinion, even at R, it was. I mean, I would have been like R plus. It was really that gory.
The new
I want like you did, Derek, because they marketed it as a and he's a comic book. He's a toxic adventure, and he is kind of comical. He's kind of like Deadpool in a way, in the Troma Studios universe. So I knew it was a comedy, and I was laughing my ass off the whole time. And when the kid got run over, I wasn't like, ooh, gross. I was like, how the did they do that? I mean, I was like, I started cranking in how the hell did they do that special effect? I learned early on from Tom Savini, not personally, I haven't met the man, but from interviews on TV, how he did the first person who gets killed in Friday the 13th when they cut the throat. And I thought, that's absolutely brilliant. And then we had I figured this one out a long time ago. We had this, it's a painter's knife that has like a round cutout in the metal, which is what you use to scrape the foam rollers. You scrape all the paint out of them with that.
Yes.
But if you put it on your arm, it looks like, you just axed yourself through the hand.
Mm-hmm.
And so I did that one time. I came out to my brothers. I was like, hey, look. And they're like, ah, and they started screaming. I'm like, no, really. There's nothing there. It's okay. Nothing happened there. Tom Savini did the same thing, where they took they go to the Walmart and buy like 5 or 6 of the same machete for whatever horror movie you want to put it in, and they just cut out semicircles for what kind of body part is going around, and it looks like it's in there, and it ain't.
I know
it's
Tom Savini
stupid,
was so
simple,
amazing.
and it looks and works so well.
Tom Savini's stuff was at the time so jaw-dropping. It was so unobtainable. Like, as a young person watching that, you could never figure out how it was done. He was such a good magician as far as being a special effects artist.
Well, no, I knew the trick he used for Kevin Bacon in Friday the 13th. Now, Kevin Bacon's the one who gets the arrow through the throat.
Oh yeah.
After he and his girlfriend have sex, Jason's underneath the bed the whole time. Obviously, when she goes to the bathroom, he grabs Kevin Bacon and puts the arrow through his throat. Well, all of Kevin Bacon that is in that scene is this.
Mm-hmm.
He's standing up underneath with his head like this, and there's a fake body going that way, and it works really good. He did the same technique later on in the zombie movies when they pull the dude apart, where they have one dude's legs going like that, and one guy, and they pull the rest of them that way. He stole that from the Wizard of Oz, because that's how they did when the monkeys pull
the scarecrow
apart.
That's right.
Same trick.
That's right.
And I was just going to say they're doing the new Toxic Avenger movie. I want to see that. There's a lot of controversy with the reviews. A lot of controversy with the reviews and stuff. And I know I was reading earlier there's some dick scene that's going to cause a lot of trouble at theaters that's in it or something. But they finally got the rating down to, I guess, to whatever, and they're going to release it. But they're also doing a graphic novel for it from Legendary on Kickstarter right now. That's some kind of comic tie-on to it that seems pretty interesting.
And again, Jeff, we talk about that Renaissance time that we live in. We're getting unrated movies in theaters again for the first time since I think the last time an unrated movie was in theaters that I knew of was Day of the Dead back in 1985.
Nice. Yeah.
Well, I mean, there's also the independent scene, which is they tend to not go through the national rating systems. That you can't really see them in other things other than like movie festivals and film festivals, if you're lucky to be there when they happen, or maybe if you're lucky you have I think there's a couple Roku channels that have indie movies on them that aren't necessarily rated, but they don't necessarily go after like gore and that kind of thing in the independent world. But there is some good I'd just say adult themed independent movies out there that don't have ratings to them.
Yeah, I mean, on streaming services for certain, but I think we have in part COVID to thank for or what happened with COVID to thank for the situation that the movie theaters are in now. I say that loosely because obviously that was a very tragic time, but nobody was going to the movies at all. So to try to get anybody to go to the theaters for anything, that's how we got movies like Skinamarink, which was the biggest endurance test I think I've ever gone through in movie history. An hour and 40 minutes that I'll never get back in my life, but that was that one time that we would get that in theater. Same thing with like Terrifier 2, Terrifier 3.
I was going to bring those up. Those I love them. I love David. He hangs out on my Facebook and talks crap about Trump sometimes, and it's kind of pretty amusing. But those movies, man, I mean, I'll watch them again. I mean, I don't have a problem, but they really made me feel like I was going to throw up, but they made me kind of feel sick for some of those scenes.
And for us to be, this on in age to still be shocked in the cinema is great. Look at all these guest stars we have.
I attack you with my pussy now. Yes.
You got your laser eyes.
He's still sweet tea.
Well, I can tell you one thing about the movie industry that I haven't liked, and that's probably the reason why I think the decline is the prices. When I was a kid, if you went before prime time, which was usually like 6 and 7 o'clock showings and beyond, were like $8. Before that, it was $4. They doubled the price after 6 or 7 o'clock. So if you went at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, you'd spend $4 on a ticket to get into the theater to watch your movie, and you'd spend maybe $2.50 for the giant bucket of corn. But back then, they would fill it part of the way, melted butter, part of the way, melted butter, part of the way, melted butter. That way, they'd layer it so it was you would never run out of gooey melted butter. And you'd spend maybe $10, maybe $11, $12 with a soda and a couple other things. And 2 hours in, you're out in the movie. Bam. Now, I went to the movies a few weeks ago with my girlfriend, just the two of us. I got a large popcorn and a drink. She got I forget what she got, and a drink. $60.
Easy.
$60. But we could have, in this theater, gone around the corner from the concession stand to the bar and gotten some liquor, beer, or wine. We didn't, but the availability is there. And that, I think, is what's bringing back the movie industry, because there are two of these cinemas that we call them warehouse where I live. We have a warehouse here in Hagerstown, and there's one down in Frederick, Maryland. I'm in Pennsylvania, so I'm like 20 minutes across the border. But they started doing this, I guess, in the late 80s, early 90s with the cinema and draft houses. And I think that you're going to collect more revenue if you do it that way than just a strict theater popcorn and Cokes. Who wants to go to the theater and buy a Coke for $8.50 when you can buy a 24-pack for $6 around the corner at the grocery store? Yeah. It just doesn't make any sense to me that why people will go to the theaters and spending $60 for two adults for an hour and a half movie. We went and saw Spinal Tap, by the way.
Yeah, cool. And then with Shudder and Screambox and God, that's like why you don't even want to leave your house.
Why even bother leaving the house?
It's hard.
Yeah, but home theater systems are just as good, if not better. Not to mention that the theater going experience, you don't have people, you don't have maitre d's and theater checkers and anything like that anymore. So it's the Wild West in there. You go to sit down, half the people are talking or fighting throughout the entirety of the movie, or they're trying to film pieces of it on their phone and nobody's stopping them. So, I'm compelled to fight more than I'm compelled to watch a movie in a movie theater, which is bad. I'm kind of curious, Derek. Lately, I've gotten into some of these monster hosts. Swing Gooley. I always have trouble saying his name. SVE and Gooley.
Sven Gooley.
He comes on MeTV, and I've been watching that every Saturday, and I love it. And I know I see him at conferences, and there's like grannies and stuff getting rubber chicken signed. I'm like, I just enjoy that. I grew up on Elvira and stuff. That was the only one I knew when I was a kid. And then I found this weirder one, and it's on PBS late at night. And I found it, and I'm like, what the hell is this? This is the weirdest shit I've ever seen. It's on PBS Nightmare Theater. And it's a dude with devil horns and a dude with a wrestling mask and like a wolf furry dude dressed up. And they show like old crazy ass movies that are like, big insects and stuff. and it's
I
called
know what you're talking about. I don't know the name of it, but I saw
Nightmare
that.
Theater. Nightmare, and he's like the henchman of Satan, and they show like this animation. It's like on PBS. I'm like, what the hell? But those hosts really fascinate me a lot. I'd like to find some more. They say there's some on YouTube. Someone told me where I could find them on YouTube, but I love that kind of stuff. And I'm kind of curious, Derek, to get into your mind. What are some movies you've seen lately that you've thought are really good or over the top gory or just been amazing? Because I know you probably watched some more eclectic stuff that I haven't heard of.
Oh, sure. For movies, on the spot, I think the movie that comes to mind as far as being, and it takes a lot to shock me, unfortunately. So every time that I'm watching something and I get to really have that visceral experience, it's fun and special. There's a movie that is on Shudder called When Evil Lurks. And it's from Argentina, and it's a subtitled. Excuse me so much. It's a subtitled movie, and it's by the same directors that did a movie called Terrified about 3 or 4 years ago, and it was also on Shudder, I believe.
Wait, I think I saw that, and there's like a crazy zombie, but it's like over the top, gory, crazy, right?
In Terrified, there was like this split-faced ghost. He had like his head was almost like in two halves. I don't know if you remember that part.
It's called When Evil Lurks. I think it's like a South American and zombie kind of situation, really dark. Like,
oh, it's a possession thing. It's a possession movie front to back, but the idea behind the possession is twofold. It comes at it from a disease perspective, like an airborne disease perspective.
Yeah, I saw it. It's been a while.
And a political perspective, because there's it's almost like a movie like a world-ending event can land in the lap of just about anybody, and in this movie it ends up in the lap of somebody that's not a great human being to begin with, and isn't all that smart. So like it's what if the opportunity to end World War III landed in the lap of I don't know, like a wife beater, a divorcee, murderer or something. It's just a real bad person. What kind of decisions would they make? And it wouldn't necessarily end well. And that's what that movie was all about.
It was. I saw that like near around Halloween, I believe. It was definitely like kind of a rare, weird one that's hard to find and probably not many places. So definitely. One of the main reasons we do the show is UFO stuff and paranormal. When I was younger, and sometimes still, I had a lot of weird situations where I saw stuff that was very strange, and it led to me interviewing like former CIA and Air Force pilot Robert Salas that wrote a whole book about UFOs coming down and shutting his nuclear missile silos down as base while he was active. He's still active, and he wrote that book. But one of the main reasons we do it is because when I was younger, and I hate telling my own story, but I've done it so many times, I'm sick of it. But I had testicular cancer when I was younger, and then I went through chemo and stuff. And then later my dad died, and I started to have a lot of weird paranormal things that may have been my dad or something imitating him, but seeing beings of light. And I was sober, and I was under other states of consciousness with friends, seeing some of this stuff. And my mom even saw some of it with me, but it led to doing this show. And now we just kind of branch out and do every crazy thing that we can do, get a hold of. Like we've had Norse shamans on here and stuff, and shamans from Israel, and just all over. We do a lot of crazy stuff. But I know you mentioned aliens. And I've been watching Alien Earth, and me and Christina started that, and that's by Noah Hawley, the guy that did the Fargo series. That was really good. He did Legion. That's pretty crazy and really good with Aubrey Plaza about the X-Men Legion dude, and that was really weird. But Alien Earth is looking pretty damn good, and that's doing good on Rotten Tomatoes. But I'm kind of curious to get in your mind about some of the Alien movies or comics and the alien influence. And I'm not just talking about the penis black alien. I'm talking about just aliens in general. But what was some of the alien stuff? Anything eclectic or weird out there?
Oh, sure. Well, it's kind of touching on what we were saying earlier about Dark Horse Comics and the Alien,
Yeah,
the
those are
Aliens
good. Those are
IP that
good.
they had. It's funny. My cousin and I were literally just talking about this last night. He has Hulu, so he got a chance to start to watch Alien Earth, where I haven't had a chance to see it yet. I did see Romulus in the theaters. Did you get a chance to see that?
Yeah, it wasn't bad. It was good. It's decent.
Yeah, it was
I did
pretty
not
good.
see it.
I dug it. You know, I don't know if it captured the same level of wonderment that the first movie did, but it definitely felt like I was in the same universe again.
Yeah.
But we can talk about all the spin-offs and the sequels and the Aliens versus Predators and all that kind of stuff. But in the early days of Dark Horse, they came out with their first Alien series was in black and white, and their second Alien series was a direct sequel to the movie Aliens, and Alien 3 was a disappointment for a lot of folks. I have a tendency not to give it quite so much shit as some people have, but I understand certainly
That was
why
good
people
points and his
would
bad
consider
points.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, to consider it an inferior sequel.
I don't
But
hate it.
they did this sequel comic book of it that was painted. I forget the name of the artist. There was a volume 1 Aliens, the first one that they ever did, and then there was the second one. The second one was a 4-part series. It didn't have a subtitle, but it took place directly after that, and it followed the whole Colonial Marines storyline to its logical conclusion. So they end up going back to home base. A bunch of other Marines get involved. It was superior. It was amazing. The artwork was great, and the writing was great, and they just did a fantastic job with it. So, the revisionist historian in me is always like, all right, so there was Aliens, and then there was this comic book sequel to Aliens. That it was its own part 3.
They put out
That's
some.
kind of what what's his name Miller did with the Mad Max series. Thunderdome was a horrible letdown for almost everybody.
Yeah.
And he did the new ones kind of like ignoring that completely.
Yeah, I can't really tell if the newer movies are remakes or if they're in continuity with what happened
The
before.
way I understand it is that the first one that came out, not the one with what's her face, but the first one that came out was directly after he splits with the people that are going to the paradise from Road Warrior Mad Max 2. And so if you look at I think it's the very beginning. They show Mad Max. He's standing there. He still has an elbow crutch because he got his knee was destroyed. His elbow was destroyed in the first 2 movies. Well, in the first movie they were just where he got the damage, but second movie he's got the metal leg, and they show him at the third movie. It's the new actor. I forget his name, but he's got the crutch. And he's standing as the setting sun comes in, and he kills a lizard and eats it. That's at the very end of World Warrior 2, beginning of the new series. That's how close it is.
That makes sense. Yeah.
I was just going to say with Alien Earth, it's good because there's other creatures on this ship that crashes on Earth. Like there's other crazy life forms that are crazy, and that makes it a lot more compelling. And if I had a way to make this dude do a thing with the Predator that's doing Prey and the cartoon and stuff and the new one Badlands, if I could mesh these 2 dudes with Aliens versus Predator and wave a wand, that would be badass. I would really hope I don't know if they're going to do it. They may not, but those 2 guys are kicking ass with Predator and Alien to me right now. They need to mishmash them with Aliens versus Predator.
I'm really looking forward to Alien Earth. I've heard a lot of good things about it too. The criticisms have been minimal, if at all, about story points and things like that. But
Yeah.
One of the other Alien movies that comes to mind, Jeff, that you asked about, this little movie that was on Hulu came out a couple years back called No One Will Save You. Have you heard of that one? Either of you guys?
Let me look it up. Is that the one with the brown haired chick in it? That and the aliens like take over the neighborhood and stuff?
Yeah, it's an
Yeah,
alien
that's
invasion
good.
movie for sure, and it's very singular. So it takes place
Yeah, that
in the perspective of that one girl. Like she gets her house is invaded by aliens.
that was good. Stephen King recommended that too, and
I went through half of the movie before I realized that nobody had said a word yet. I was so like just watching the movie. It got about an hour into the movie, and I'm like, wait a minute, nobody has said a single word in
yeah,
this movie yet. It was
it's
just
good.
this
It was
weird.
good. I've seen her in something else too. I can't remember what right now. I don't know if it wasn't Walking Dead, was it? Was she Judith? No, I don't remember. But the extra, those are crazy and old weird alien ones. I have those. I like bought them with some weird pirate set that you buy in a set somewhere on one of those sites. But
Extra was like watching a porn movie. That was literally like a psychosexual romp into sci-fi madness. It was.
Well, any old Richard Corman movie was basically soft porn in a weird, mutated sci-fi kind of fashion.
uh, how
And,
many
and God
extras?
love them too, because at 13, 14 years old, we couldn't get in the porn section of these mom and pop video stores. So at least we had those movies.
At least those were available. Yeah. There's another little known one, and I think it's also a Roger Corman. I don't remember for sure or not, but Miss Tracy Lords is in it. Not of this earth or not from this earth. Did you ever see that?
I don't think
So
I have, no.
it's a remake of a '50s same title, not from this earth or not of this earth, something like that. But it's the alien invasion is a vampire, but it uses a device to like he attacks people and throws this device on them, and it sucks their blood out. And I forget exactly how the outcome is on both movies, but Tracy Lords is in the second one, so it's for that alone, it's worth watching. But it is horrible. It's not a horror movie. It's in the horror section. Let me just put it like that. But it is a horrible movie. That's why it's in that section. It's not in there because of any other good marital reason. It's like you said that your favorite movie is one of the worst things ever. This was one of my favorite, old style, it's not even a 50s movie. It was made in the 80s, I think, but it's made in the old style of the 50s, like the first 50s zombie movie, the first 50s vampire. It's made like in that fashion.
Yeah, half my collection is all just, schlock movies. They all get the same amount of love.
Yeah.
It's-
Well, then you'll enjoy that from this earth.
I love the
Is
old black and
it
white.
is very schlocky.
I'll have to check it out.
I've heard of it for sure. May have seen it and just don't remember, but uh, definitely. What are some of your favorites as far as horror movies? And then, is there any comics that you keep up with now, like religiously, or not? Like any titles?
Comics is a tough one because the landscape has changed so much over the years, and a lot of these comic books series that I used to collect get rebooted over and over again, or they break continuity, and they much like movies these days too will tell you to ignore the last 19 sequels, and we're picking up from part two only or part one only or whatever. So not as much as I used to. The ones that I used to collect religiously was the Incredible Hulk was my favorite growing up. Watched, collected it all the way through. Took some years off. Then they came out with one called the Immortal Hulk, which
Yeah,
came
that
out
was
a few
great.
years back.
That was great.
Amazing body horror, gore. I mean, it was insane. It was a horror book, full stop. And the new version that they have out now, it's as close to an indie horror comic that I've ever seen in terms of like not just story, but the way it's drawn. You know how like they used to be like a Marvel style sort of.
Yeah.
And they didn't embrace different artistic types as much as they do today.
Oh
There's
my
this
God! Yeah, when
one
McFarlane changed the eyes on Spider-Man, people wigged out.
that was such a big deal over nothing.
Yeah,
And
over a simple
and
costume
that's how
change.
you
Yeah.
inspire change is you have to be bold and break through. And it's cool that now they have these artists that have their own signature style that may not go with the grain of what companies like Marvel are interested in, but still create something that's very unique and special. And the artwork in the Incredible Hulk today, right this very second, is just, it's independent 1970s horror comic aesthetic. So if you are in the local comic shop and you pick up a copy today, that's what you're going to see, and I think that's kind of cool.
It
I
is
used
cool.
to
And
collect
I have a
Swamp
strong affinity
Thing.
for the Hulk
I
as
stayed
well. I
with
mean,
Swamp Thing for a very long time. I'm a big fan of like Bernie Wrightson. A lot of these like classically trained comic book artists like Bernie Wrightson, Nestor Redondo, Gene Colan, Michael Golden. I mean, the list goes on and on and on. Vince Locke, of course. And I used to collect what else? Again, like the Batman series and stuff like that. I would try it for a while, but then it would kind of either reboot itself or apologize for itself, and it just, I never felt like I really latch on. I always felt like I was being pandered to by like a fandom, instead of just telling stories that go where they're supposed to go logically. I always felt like I could predict. You always know that Batman's not going to get killed. The Joker's never going to die. Like you can go through the rogues gallery of villains, and you can kind of always predict that these things are never going to stray too far from the nucleus. But
which is why I think Hollywood likes to kill them off when they get a hold of them. Kill
yeah,
off the Joker, the Penguin, the Catwoman. They do it all. I mean, it's all the time.
oh yeah, there's a lot. So interestingly, Image Comics, back in the day, they were doing some of the most schlocky superhero stuff back in the early 90s, has become one hell of an independent publisher now. The things that you can find through Image, to me, is where my money would be at if you wanted to try like a high-end independent comic book by an independent creator that has nothing to do with anything that you know about previously. I was reading this one book years ago called Airboy, about these comic creators that were tasked by their editor to bring back this 1940s character called Airboy. And the first issue is literally these guys getting together who don't know each other and going on a friggin' drunken, drug-fueled bender to try to be inspired to create new stories about this 1940s character. Had nothing to do with Airboy as a character at all. Like literally, I'm watching guys in the stalls having sex with hookers, and I'm like, what is this book? I don't even understand what I'm reading, and it's all very slapstickish and everything else, but you would never find that anywhere else. Like I couldn't ever find another book like it, and there's just a lot of those kinds of things going up now. So I find myself walking into a comic book shop now, and just instead of like being loyal to like an IP, is just really giving something new a try, and just going with it for a couple of issues and just seeing what new creators have to say, because there's so many of them now. Talking about an embarrassment of riches, I'm one of the smallest publishers that there are out there. Out of the little trains that could, I'm definitely in the lower echelon of that. I'm predominantly a comic book artist that wanted to work for himself, and that's what I've done. And I've wanted to do that because I've seen the way, especially artists, are treated with a lot of bigger companies, and not to discern any in particular company or anything else, but the money drops out halfway through the project, or right when you're about to get paid, or there's always something going on, or even worse, they make you work on a project for a year and then they don't put it out. Something happens, and all of that ends up being for nothing. So comic book artists are amazing individuals. Creators in general are amazing individuals. They're the type of people that will pay you to do work. You know, they'll literally pay you to mop the floors on their movie set. So their passion is often taken advantage of. And as Roughhouse as an entity, we're by the people for the people. So we definitely keep it on that level. And you know, Gore Shriek is an IP for us. The Dead was an IP for us and will be again. And we're exploring a couple of other IPs as well, but we're more interested at this stage. So there, I have a Roughhouse partner. His name is Steve Van Samson, who's predominantly he's a novelist and writer, but he's also a graphic novelist and illustrator as well. And together we make a lot of original books as well. And again, even if it's a novel, we'll sell that novel as if it's a collectible, which is a different business model. So you know, you got your book audience, which is there, which is good. But you also can have the collector's market buy your novel, even though that they're not into print media. You know, maybe that's not their thing, but maybe they'll buy it because of all the extras and all the extra work we put into these things. So it's something that we do for, I call it, you know, like doctors play golf on Saturdays. You know, I do this, my whole heart is into it. I don't think you'll find anybody of my level tell you that they're doing it for anything above passion. I don't think anyone would say that they're doing it for financial gain, for sure. But we have a very small dedicated audience, and it grows every year. And we love what we do, and we have a very dedicated following. So it seems to be a nice run so far. So until people stop buying our stuff, we're going to stick around for a little while longer and see what happens.
And what's the main website for everybody?
roughhousepublishing.com. And that's where you can buy all of the books that we currently sell. We do graphic novels, comic books. Like I mentioned to Jay, we're going to be doing vinyl come next year. We partnered with a movie company. We put out a Blu-ray recently. The Blu-ray is available at shows, and it comes with a mini comic that we put in there. So again, you know, selling our products the same way that market has sold their products, where it's not just the product, it's all the extra fun stuff that you get with it. We just came out with an official Roughhouse hot sauce that we sell at shows as well. And we have a line of hot sauces. So we have a mild and a medium and a hot, and they're all tied into our products. So we have a book called Black Honey, and we have a hot sauce called Black Honey that goes with it. And when we promoted that book, we sold those things together, and people really loved the living hell out of that. That was really cool. We have another book called Mark of the Witchworm, and we have a Tears of the Witchworm hot sauce to go with that. So you see, you kind of get an idea of how we kind of move and shake in the industry.
Cool. Yeah, I was looking at those books you just mentioned on there, and I saw that the standards are still available. And so what are you going to do in the future? Is there going to be any more Gore Shrieks, or is that the final issue?
So we've been doing Gore Shriek now. At the time that we started Gore Shriek, it was 2016, and it was on the dawn of the 30th anniversary of the series. And at the time, the series was and the company Fantico Enterprises was fairly defunct. You know, it was just Gore Shriek was a memory on the minds of indie comic book collectors and things like that. So we brought Gore Shriek back originally as a way to celebrate the 30th anniversary. We did a volume 2 a couple years later, and the series to me felt unfinished. It was always supposed to be a 2-volume project, but there was just something about it that just felt undone, and I can't really put my finger on it. But as a result of that, we decided to do one more, and that's what Gore Shriek Resurrectus Volume 3 is. It's being worked on and finished up right now, and we're going to be shipping it out on October 1st. But we're doing a pre-order right now. So we have different tiers. We have an ultimate edition that sells everything in the kitchen sink. It's the books. We have a death certificate in there. We have posters, barf bags, guitar picks, hot sauces, Blu-rays. I mean, you're getting everything that we offer with this product is all available in that tier. We have a sketch card edition where I'll draw an original sketch to go with the book that you choose. And then we have 2 different covers. You can buy one cover by itself, the other cover by itself. So we try to hit a bunch of different price points for folks. Some people aren't collectors, they just want the damn book. So we have like a tier for that. And then we have people that want everything in the kitchen sink, and we have a tier for that as well.
Yeah.
But this will be the last one, Jeff, to answer your question. We figured that we've done it long enough. We've worked on it for 10 years. We've almost become the Gore Shriek company. Like we're almost synonymous with the title. So as much as we love it, there are a lot of other projects that we want to work on and get out of our system. And these projects all take a long time to do. So unlike some publishers that'll put out like 10 books a year or even 5 books a year, we usually put out one title a year and we promote it all year long. It's almost like we're a movie company and we're coming out with a new movie. So we take the time to promote it. So we give it a large lead time to try to get people excited, try to get people interested. Then we do a pre-order system where people get to pre-order all of the different tiers that they're interested in. Then once we get those books out, we take it to the people and we start a press tour, and we'll do 5, 6, 7 shows a year, depending on where we go. And then we'll come back after that year and we'll start thinking about whatever the next project is going to be and then repeat that process. So we try to keep it special. There's something about, not having a large catalog going out all at once that keeps everything special. And I think that's the reasons why we've lasted as long as we have is that we're constantly in a state where people want more from us and not less. So like we're not so in your face that you're just doing everything you can to get rid of us. So again, in the future, I think you'll see a lot more original products from us. Mark of the Witchworm and Black Honey are 2 original products already. But even on a comic book end, we have a lot of original stuff that is percolating that over the next, we have about 4 or 5 years worth of projects that we're working on right now. So you'll see us for a while for sure, but definitely more originals as time goes on for sure.
What did you have to do to get, go ahead.
No, and I was just going to close with saying that, and more diversification too. So comic books, novels, graphic novels, audiobooks, Blu-rays, vinyl, Jay, that we were talking about. Those are definitely going to come out. And just, we don't want to put a cap on our creativity. We want to be, we started off as like a small little independent exploitation horror comic book company. But that's not where we wanted to stay. We wanted to be able to, the whole idea behind Rough House is to be free and not to have any confines of any kind of studio mandates or any kind of like major publisher trappings. So, I always say that we could publish anything. Our book, Mark of the Witchworm, isn't a horror book. It's a dark fantasy book. Cool. So, for those folks, and that came out during the pandemic, and that was a leap of faith. I didn't even know if our audience would accept a dark fantasy book because they were so used to hardcore horror from us. But the book did well at the time, and people really embraced it, and they enjoyed the heart of the story. They, it's not necessarily something that you think of when you think of Rough House, that you'll think of, oh, that story had a lot of heart to it. It had a lot of, it gave me the feels. You don't have a lot of that with us, but every once in a while we give our audience a shot, and they've been very receptive.
Well, Derek, definitely I'm going to keep bugging you about the dead so I don't miss that one. And definitely keep an eye out for that one. And we look forward to future releases. And we appreciate it. A great show. Thanks so much for all the history and the weirdness. And loved it. Thank you.
Yeah, it was a great show, dude. Thanks.
Jeffrey, Jay, you guys have been amazing. Thank you so much for your interest in our company. Again, it's amazing with minimal. I mean, we're on social media. But I don't dedicate my life to making promo videos and being on TikTok and every other thing that there is and trying to keep up with the Joneses as far as that's concerned. I'm a 53-year-old.
There's too many platforms out there. Yeah, you'll kill yourself and go crazy doing it.
Yeah, I mean, you literally could hire somebody and have that be their full-time job. I'm 53 years old. I want to enjoy my life, and I want to create stuff that people enjoy as well. But the fact that guys like yourself can find us from where you are and find some interest in what we do, it really does mean a lot. So thank you guys so much for having me on today.
You're welcome.
Yeah, no problem.
You.
If you have any more projects, we're glad to bring you back in. Definitely.
Absolutely. And please follow me if nowhere else, please follow me on my Facebook social media page. It's just Derek Rook. You'll find me there. But that's where I do the dominating of most of the updates and the ads and everything else. So if you're really trying to keep up with everything that we do, that's where you're going to get the most of it more than any other place.
All right. Well, we appreciate it. I'll be 51 December 26. Oh my gosh. It seems painful at 50.
You know what? Let's all embrace it, guys. We're all still here. Jeffrey, you gave us a little bit of background as to your story, what you went through, what you've endured, what you've overcome. Jay, even in the beginning of this conversation before we got on, you gave me a couple hints, maybe with that not without coming out overtly saying it, giving me a little insight as to your belief system. We're all here for a reason, and we all have something to contribute. So, let's enjoy this quote unquote embarrassment of riches that we're in the middle of together.
And hopefully we don't get nuked. Hopefully we don't get nuked this year, become toxic Avengers. So, all right. We appreciate it, Derek. Thanks so much. And take care, everybody. You're listening to United Public Radio, 107.7 FM, New Orleans. And I'm in Florida. It sucks. It's so hot. I'll be glad when it gets cold. At least it gets cold where I'm at because I'm near Georgia and Alabama. Thank you, God. But next week is wait, where is it? Oh, Jerry Avalos. That'll be all kinds of stuff. He used to work with Carrie Cassidy, Project Camelot. And then Anthony Fusilla.
It's the third time that we've interviewed him, isn't it?
He's been on forever. He's an old friend of the show. Anthony Fusilla, That's Crazy Mars Stuff, the continuation. So, and then my Halloween lineup, October 3rd, Ernie Altbacker. That's a weird, funny Area 51 comic book. Dave Godsward. Cool. That has something to do, Dave Godsward, something to do with Lovecraft in Florida. Hell if I know, but I'll find out when he's on. Tyrone Ellington, that's Ancient Aliens and weird stuff. Jacoby Matat, he did this great comic that was on Kickstarter. He spent like 16 years or more making it, called Pumpkin Guts, the Hellbound Halloween. And he has like hearses and has a replica of the Christine, well, a car like Christine. And so we're going to talk about all that stuff. That'll be our Halloween show. But all right, everybody. Thanks, Derek. Thanks, Jay. Thanks, everybody. Have a good weekend and watch that Alien Earth, man. It's good. It's good. I like it. I'm ready.
Let's have a follow-up conversation once I have a chance to get a couple episodes under my belt. I'm looking forward.
There we go.
Definitely. Take care, man. I hope you feel better with your throat and stuff. Take care.
Thank you so much. I'm about to have some hot tea right now.
All right. Take care, man.
Bye-bye, guys.